like to talk about resistance, feeling resistance, being stuck, being in repetitive cycles, repetitive patterns. And I would like to bring the perspective, the awareness that you can start igniting within yourself that comes from a practical level, because we live on earth, and it is on earth that we survive, it is on earth that we live, it is on earth that we provide, that we make money, that we go sleep, that we eat, that we have relationships. And when the energy is stuck within ourselves, which limits our ability to move forward, and I'm talking about, again, situations, earthly situations, right? Moving out at a job that it perhaps no longer resonate with you, or relationships, or moving forward with relationships, moving forward with projects, with new ideas, anything that is of a shift for you on a practical level that needs changing, is where perhaps resistance can be playing. And the reason resistance is playing is because we are used to routine, we are used to repetitive cycles, we are used to patterns. And if you had major changes that perhaps elicited, as we perhaps interpreted, not so positive changes in your life, not so supportive change in your lives, then changes will be perceived as difficult, as fearful, destructive, yeah. But if you had changes that were positive, that you have perceived to be positive in your reality, perhaps you're more open to changes in your adult life today. But there are areas in our lives, emotionally, mentally, physically, energetically, that we sometimes can get a bit stuck, a bit blocked. And regardless where it's coming from, there is a percentage linked to every aspect of ourselves: the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the energetic. And however you find the best way to communicate with those aspects, perhaps you are more of a physical person that know your body well, and that's through physical movement that you understand where your mood is, where your energy is, where your emotion is, where your mind is. Or perhaps you are more of a mental person. When I say mental person, of a mind person, of you're more based in the head. And this is when you are thinking and talking to yourself that you realize where your physical body is, where your emotions are, and where your energy is. Or maybe you are more of an emotional person, and through those moments of emotions, that helps you understand where your mind is, your body is, and your energy is. Or maybe you are very sensitive to energy shifts in the room, in people, in yourself, and through those shifts you understand where your mind is going, where your physical body is going, and where your emotions are going. So everyone will have an entry point, and when I say an entry point, will be one of these aspects, okay? Because that's what makes a human being to be here on earth. And we are energy, we are mind, we are the physical body, and we are emotions. So when you understand your entry point, to understand where you are in any specific moment, that is when that is the point where you can use the same aspect to then break down the resistance. But to break down the resistance, we need to bring awareness that the resistance will come on the practical level. It will come on everyday tasks that you do. It will come through your routine. It will come through the things that happen every day that are very similar, that happen the same way all the time. It will come to things that happen sporadically. It will come through things that happen by surprise. It will come on every interaction that you have with yourself and the world and the people around you on your day-to-day, very ground level, 3D level, earthly level. It's not going to happen in the cosmos. It's not going to happen up there. It's already happening everywhere. And when you understand your entry point, for example, there was a point that my entry point was physicality. It's not as much anymore. I'm more energetically now, but I have gone through the phase of mentally, right? That was my entry point. Then I went through the phase of, actually I'm realizing this as I am speaking, which I'm going back in some of the phases I've been through, where the physicality was the one telling me where I was in my state, my emotions, my mental, and my energy. Today I use a lot of energy to understand where I am. But when you are, let's say, using your physicality, right? Perhaps it's a day you're feeling a bit sluggish, a bit heavy in your body, a bit slow. And then you're asking yourself, why today I don't have that same energy? And through the questioning, you then getting the information from the mind or the emotions or the energy, and putting that puzzle together to understand where you are. And this is when you understand, this is where you know you can break the resistance that your body's shifting through. Your body's shifting through a resistance. There's something in that specific moment, or perhaps in a few days' time, or perhaps even in the past, that has already happened, that has changed something within you, or is creating a block or a resistance, because there is that fear of change also, or you went through a change that caused the unknown and caused unsettledness, which then your body is experiencing and telling you, you know, there's something happening. And all it is, when we are picking up these entry points, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the energetic, all we're doing is just using the entry point to then navigate and put the puzzles together to understand where we are. And using your everyday moment, right? Let's say, for example, again, family dynamic, dinner time, you know, perhaps you are in that situation where you ask everyone what they want for tea and then get to a common ground and you all agree. Or perhaps you have a menu set up for the whole week and nobody needs to ask anyone, and we all know what we're going to eat every day of the week. In a different day of the week, it's a different dish, and it's settled, it's standard, and we know, we follow through. Okay, but let's say somebody then has a sudden food intolerance to an ingredient that's part of the menu in the family menu, right? So that is a trigger for change, okay? And that trigger for change will then affect a specific dish in a specific day of the week, which then will affect all the people in the family. So that's the change, okay? Every person in that family will interpret that change, will bring their opinions and wishes of what a new dish could be to substitute or to amend or to substitute just the ingredient. And that's the dynamic of change happening within your 3D right there, okay? Or perhaps you are one of those families that you decide on the night, you go and buy the ingredients to cook on the night, and we decide as we go along. Perhaps you don't like a set menu for the week and you like more of the spontaneity of just choosing what you feel like at that moment. But then you feel like needs to merge with the rest of the family and come to a common ground. So maybe perhaps on that specific moment, yeah, perhaps there's a bit more flow because there's a bit more dynamic already happening on a day-to-day basis. However, how can you make a change to that? How can you create a change? Perhaps you could suggest from now on we'll go into a menu, and every time you try to change a routine from your own family, your own life, your own aspect of what you're doing, it creates a change. And you only need to do something slightly different to see a slightly different perspective about yourself and others around and your environment. And that slight change will affect not just you, but loads of people around you. So the idea here is, if you feel that you are blocked, if you feel that you are congested, stuck, stagnant, and you're trying to understand, how do I break through this resistance? Okay, first of all, the fear of change is huge behind that. It's what really keeps us stuck and not making decisions, because not making decisions is a choice to stay stuck. But you need to move on, you need to shift, you need to maybe leave that relationship, you need maybe to step into that relationship, maybe you need to leave that job, maybe you need to get a new job. Whatever it is, these are only simple examples, okay? Resonate with your own story, with what you're going through right now, and allow yourself to say, right, how can I do this different? How can I do this different? Once, slightly different, doesn't have to be majorly different. When you create that change, that small change that you're comfortable with doing, you will see a different perspective, and you will understand a little bit further into the other entry points in your body, which is the mental, emotional, physical, and energetic, that will trigger something for you to see and understand what is the resistance about. And of course, the self-awareness, your journaling, your breathing, your feeling, sensing, and paying attention to your mind, what your mind is trying to tell you, is important for you to then start to put the puzzles together. So doing these little changes in your routine, little changes and observing, go for bigger changes and observing, and see where that stagnation is actually stuck to, right? Where a change in decision will show you how that stagnation is playing out in your life, in your energy field, in your body, in your emotions, in your mind. And this is how we move through the resistance. But when you make the change, is to move through with it, to go with the uncomfortable and get to the final solution, get to the end point where you understand that you finalize the completion of that change that you initiated earlier on. You set the intention to make a small change, you see, you make the change, you observe what the change is doing to you in your body, in your energy, in all the aspects of your body and your energy field, and then you make sure that you conclude the change, at least for that once. It doesn't have to be a permanent change forever, but it's that one time that you do something different. Perhaps you need to say no to stipulate your boundaries, and you think, well, I'm gonna have to say no forever now, but maybe not. Maybe you just need to say no once, and then take that time to observe, to understand how your body's shifting through that decision making, through that change, through that initiation that you gave yourself. You are a clever human being with a clever soul that is trying to help you initiate yourself into these changes. It's an amazing tool that we have, and it all comes down to this awarenesses. But sometimes awarenesses can be brought from these different structures that we build in our lives, like tools, like different routines. You want to change your eating habit, or maybe there's a medical condition, you need to eat a bit healthier, and you need to make those changes. And then people think, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to eat more fruit, I'm going to drink more water, all at once. And that is a lot of resistance to move through. It's a lot of resistance to shift through all at once. You will trigger alarming systems in your survival mode. It will trigger, all sorts of things that perhaps you don't need to deal with, and it will last a week or two, and then we're back to square one. So what I'm saying here is the reason these things we get stuck is if we are stuck, if we feel blocked, there is fear. There is fear underneath it all. And for us to make big changes can be quite a lot. So taking little steps, making changes, observing, and going through the change and finalize. Maybe for that week, for example, the last week I decided to do fasting, just drinking water. I had my breakfast and I had my dinner, but I made sure small amounts, but I was fasting through the day, just drinking water. And I did it. I managed 3 days, and that was enough. Okay, but I got so much information of my patterns, my behaviors of eating, the amount of sugar I was consuming. All these little things was like I was able to pick up and see about myself, because when I was craving for sugar and I realized, no, I'm fasting, gotta drink water, I realized how many times I was going for something sugary. So I wasn't aware of that. So it brings awarenesses of where we are, where we want to be. And where I want to be is, no, I don't want to be eating that much sugar in the day. And I'm able to now have an idea of how much sugar I'm taking in, because I'm aware I'm putting it in my mouth now, as before it was so automatic. So the idea here is to make little changes, and this is how we move through resistance. But just don't make the change, feel the resistance and back away and go back to the comfortable. You need to at least finalize that process for that one thing, that one time. It's one little routine in your day. Perhaps you want to start waking up earlier, because the sun is coming out earlier. You want to enjoy the sunrise a little bit more, and you can use 10-15 minutes for a little walk. Just do that one day in that week, one day in that week, and then another day in another week. Take your time and then observe how did you feel that morning. Was it difficult to get up? Perhaps it was. You fighting with the alarm. But then try again. Move through that resistance by getting up, by getting out, by doing the walk, by finishing, coming back. Yeah. And then you start to observe all the different times that you have done this, and how things are changing, because you are moving through the resistance. And that's what I say about moving through the resistance, not necessarily fighting through it. Fighting through it for me looks like, oh, I would love to be walking every morning now that the spring is coming, more light in the morning, and so I'm gonna get up every morning from April 1st and I'm gonna do it every single day. And that's a lot of change to move through, a lot of resistance to move through, a lot of expectations. And I don't even want to talk about being expectations. I just wanted to talk about the amount of your entry points having to deal with the resistance. It will be your physical, you'll be your mental, you'll be your emotional, you'll be your energetic. And how can you shift through one aspect at a time? Yeah, one aspect at a time. Slowly, gradually, allowing you to move through the resistance with grace, and observing and understanding, what can I do different next time I wake up? Should I wake up a half an hour earlier or half an hour later? Do I need 15 minutes of walking? Can I do 5 minutes of walking? And then can I get up a little bit later and then work my way back to wake up a little bit earlier, right? So there's different things that we can do. We got to play around with these little changes without alarming the nervous systems, alarming the survival mode, alarming even the physical body. We don't want to be shocking the physical body. I talk a lot about a stretching concept in my physiotherapy business with my patients, and it works brilliantly. And I'm starting to see the parallel here with how I also have moved through my own resistance of many aspects of myself. And it has been through, first of all, going all out, and then triggering my survival mode, triggering this, triggering that, and realizing I couldn't cope, I couldn't keep up, and going back to the comfortable zone. And then realizing that if I do in small steps, little steps, And the reason we do that is so that we don't trigger those so often, right? So that we can build the new routine, the new comfortable, the new uncomfortable to become comfortable underneath those alarming systems, so that it doesn't make part of those alarming systems, because the alarming systems are there for the old stuff. Yeah, and this is how we shift. This is how we move. This is how we move through the resistance. And this is something I'm going to bring in my monthly Zoom call, which is on the new moon in April. It will be the end of March, but April. I'll put the date below in the description, and I would love you to join. It's free, and if you are interested, please send me an email or a message, and I will send you the link for the date and time. And if you can make it, I would love you to make it. We'll talk about resistance. We'll do energy healing to find and understand how we're feeling resistance in our body, and we'll move through that resistance together in a healing energy session as a group. And we also can talk about, and share in a group and see if that brings some light to what you're trying to navigate through yourself. So hopefully I can hear from you and meet you on Zoom, and we'll go through this journey together. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.